Your Excellency, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Ambassador Minata Samate Cessouma, represented by the Director for Political Affairs, Dr. Habali Matlosa, Honorable Commissioner Solomon Ayele Dersso, Chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Mr. Tefo Raditapole, Chairperson of the Board of CSVR, the Center for the Studies of Violence and Reconciliation, Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of UN agencies, civil society, academia, and experts in the field of transitional justice, all protocol duly observed, I welcome you to this fourth edition of the African Transitional Justice Forum, the state of transitional justice in Africa, under the theme Silencing the Guns in the context of COVID-19, progress, problems, and prospects. This event is an annual event jointly organized by the Department of Political Affairs of the African Union Commission and with technical support from the CSVR, the Center for the Studies of Violence and Reconciliations based in South Africa. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this opening ceremony. My name is Salah Hamad from the Department of Political Affairs, and I will be moderating this opening ceremony. Allow me first to give the floor to Mr. Tefo Raditapole, the Chairperson of the Board of CSVR, to deliver welcoming remarks. Excellency, you have the floor, please.
Hi, Ambassador. Tefo is still trying to join. We can have Commissioner Dersso start, and then Tefo will come after him. He's struggling to join.
I understand there's always these technical challenges here and there. So I have now the honor to welcome and to invite Honorable Commissioner Solomon Dersso, Chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, to deliver his remarks. Commissioner, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Salah Hamad, moderator of the opening session of the fourth Continental Forum on Transitional Justice in Africa. I would wish to start by extending my appreciation and thanks on behalf of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights for the invitation extended to us to be part of this fourth Continental Forum on Transitional Justice. I wish in particular to thank the Department of Political Affairs, Ambassador Minata, and all her team, as well as the Center for the Study of Reconciliation and Violence for steering this process and maintaining the discourse on transitional justice on the African continent at a very high level, as one of the most important vehicles through which countries struggling with peace and security, countries struggling with the maintenance of national cohesion, and with problems of governance, as well as respect for human rights, to ensure that they have the necessary tools, legal, institutional, and policy tools at their disposal in order for them to address these diverse challenges that they face as they try to uphold rule of law, respect human and people's rights, and indeed achieve stability and peace. The African Union, through the African Transitional Justice Policy, has put forward a very comprehensive and rich instrument that offers the foundation and indeed the basis, the legal instruments, the options, the benchmarks for designing transitional justice processes as an instrument for moving societies from conflict, violence, and authoritarianism to peace, stability, and democracy. The African Union Transitional Justice Policy is unique in so many ways, among other things, in its conception of transitional justice, but also in the richness of the legal materials that it takes into account, addressing not only physical violence, which results from authoritarian rule or conflict, but also socioeconomic deprivations that result from both violent conflict and authoritarian rule that is founded on exclusion and discrimination. The African Union Transitional Justice Policy is also unique in the way it addresses cross-cutting issues, most notably gender equality, and indeed the intergenerational dimension of conflict and the impact of authoritarian rule on the youth. Many countries on our continent, from Sudan to the Central African Republic to South Sudan, the Gambia and Ethiopia, are in the process of implementing one or other forms of transitional justice processes. With the rich legal and policy materials availed through the African Union Transitional Justice Policy, and indeed the Transitional Justice Study of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, these countries do have, for the very first time, an authoritative source of reference that helps them guide and inform not only the conception, but also the delivery of transitional justice, and doing so in a way that caters for and responds to the specific needs of each of these countries as they transition from conflict to peace, from authoritarian rule to democracy. I do hope that this fourth continental forum presents us an opportunity to reflect on whether and how we are taking advantage and making use of these authoritative instruments of the African Union system, and how and what more needs to be done in order to disseminate, but also importantly, enable national actors, both state and non-state actors, to take advantage of and make use of these instruments. I do also hope that this platform presents us the opportunity to hear diverse voices from across the continent on various experiences relating to not only transitional justice processes in various countries, but also importantly on the African Union theme of the year, and indeed the link between transitional justice and the African Union theme of the year on silencing the gaps. I wouldn't end without mentioning some of the pressing challenges that we all are experiencing and indeed witnessing across our beloved continent. Those relating to the demand for inclusion, particularly by the youth, the demand for a democratic and just political and socio-economic order, again by the youth, as manifested through protests that are happening in various countries, including most recently in Nigeria. and indeed the serious socioeconomic and humanitarian fallouts of COVID-19, which continues to affect not only governance, peace and security and stability, but also the well-being of various members of society, particularly the most vulnerable. As we reflect on the theme of this fourth Continental Forum, I do hope that we also problematize these developments and these demands for inclusion by the youth as an important foundation for us to make the transitional justice policy and the African Commission study on transitional justice a reality. I wish to thank once again all of you for your kind attention, and I wish us all a very successful fourth Continental Transitional Justice Forum. I thank you for your kind attention.
Honorable Commissioner Dersso, Chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, we thank you very much indeed for your remarks and your words of wisdom. Indeed, inclusion is an important issue, managing diversity, and of course, at the end, implementing transitional justice processes is the only way to bring peace and reconciliation to our beloved continent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, this forum, the fourth edition of it, and since the beginning of it, we've been, as Department of Political Affairs of the African Union Commission, enjoying close partnership and coordination, collaboration, as well as technical support from CSVR to bring this forum closer to the expert as well as to the ordinary African citizens in order for them to know more about what this transitional justice is all about. So now it is my honor to invite the chairperson of the board of CSVR to address this forum. You have the floor, sir, please.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Salah, I'll get straight into it. Your Excellencies, representatives of the African Union, member states here present, Your Excellency, the Commissioner of the African Union Commission Department of Political Affairs, Honorable Samate, representatives of the African Union organs, representatives of the international community, media representatives, and colleagues and friends from civil society and academia. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to the fourth edition of the African Transitional Justice Forum. We thank you for joining us for the next 3 days to reflect and deliberate on the state of transitional justice in Africa under the theme, Silencing the Guns in the Context of COVID-19, Progress, Problems, and Prospects. This year, we are convening a virtual forum due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has seen many countries impose travel bans and enforcing national lockdowns. The upside of this online forum, however, is that all you need to participate is your phone, laptop or device, data or Wi-Fi, and the Zoom link, and you can connect and participate from anywhere in the world. This year has been a difficult one, with the pandemic devastating the economies of the world and putting a strain on lives and livelihoods. With our continent's conflicts and its processes of post-conflict reconstruction, governance and developmental deficits. The pandemic has added a layer of vulnerability for victims and victim groups, further delaying their justice and redress, and thereby compounding their suffering. Transitional justice processes stalled, peace-building processes were halted as a result of the pandemic, and we know that the impact of this pandemic will not be quickly resolved. While the African Union's commitment to silencing the guns and creating conducive conditions for Africa's development is underway, the guns have continued in the Sahel, the Lake Chad Basin, Mozambique, Cameroon, Nigeria, Guinea, amongst others. Our post-conflict reconstruction work through transitional justice is needed now more than ever and is urgent. The pandemic has exposed our pre-existing vulnerabilities as Africans, brought about by historical legacies and structural inequality that has seen the majority of Africans who are reliant on the informal sector having their source of livelihood wiped out as countries looked on helplessly. Vulnerable groups in society, including women and girls, youth and children, refugees, migrants and internally displaced persons, the elderly, people with disabilities, as well as people with mental health challenges, were plunged further into new levels of vulnerability and despair. Most countries experienced a sharp increase in gender-based violence, and their security was further threatened. Women in conflict situations were especially affected, as were children. These experiences and challenges are the focus of this edition of the forum, which is being held a year after the adoption of the African Union Transitional Justice Forum and 2 years after the African Commission on Human and People's Rights study on transitional justice and human people's rights in Africa. As we interrogate the role of transitional justice and the transitional justice policy in silencing the guns, violent extremism and insurgency in Africa, the added vulnerability of victims brought about by COVID-19, and lastly, the outlook of funding for African transitional justice processes after COVID-19, we invite robust discussions, candid conversations, and reflections that shape transitional justice in Africa, pushing the boundaries towards improving practice and interventions. On this note, you are all welcome to this, the 4th edition of the African Transitional Justice Forum, where African expertise, best practices, and innovative approaches to transitional justice will propel us towards securing better and improved transitional justice interventions. I thank you. That chairperson is my welcome.
Thank you very much.
And yes, and I hope the forum achieves, and I'm sure it will achieve its objectives and take us a little bit further in this area of life that we are trying to improve. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Tofelo, and we really appreciate your contribution, your statement. And I'm sure one day when we have more time, you will be able to tell us the story of the ancient door behind you in the background. And I'm sure it has a story to be told. Thank you very much again for your contribution, the chairperson of the board of CSVR. And now it is my honor to invite my boss, Director Khabali Matlosa, the Director for Political Affairs, to deliver a statement on behalf of the Commission for Political Affairs. Director, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, moderator, and my dear colleague, Ambassador Salah Hamad, who is facilitating this opening ceremony of our important gathering this afternoon. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say all protocols duly observed to respect everyone on this platform, to also really welcome all and sundry on this virtual meeting. I'm pleased to be with you during this fourth edition of the African Union Transitional Justice Forum on the state of transitional justice in Africa, focusing on the theme, silencing the guns in the context of COVID-19, progress, problems, and prospects. I'm glad to deliver this statement on behalf of the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Her Excellency Ambassador Minata Samate Cessouma, who unfortunately is unable to join us due to circumstances beyond her control. We have a clash of schedules. She's actually currently in Guinea and on her way to Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, for elections. And I'm actually even talking to you now from Tanzania for the same exercise, but I managed to, still a minute or two to come and join you. Allow me, Mr. Moderator, to extend my gratitude to Mr. Tefo Raditapole, Chairperson of the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation, CSVR, and his team for the sterling effort in the preparations for this forum. Our partnership with CSVR has grown in leaps and bounds over the years and has been fruitful in advancing the transitional justice agenda of the African Union. Going forward, this partnership is key as we implement Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. It is worth recalling, therefore, moderator, that silencing the guns, which is the theme of this forum, is actually one of the flagship projects of Agenda 2063. So the significance of this forum cannot be underestimated. We are, in fact, implementing Agenda 2063, as it were. So I think that should not be lost to our minds, that we are doing a very, very important assignment. We're undertaking a very important assignment over the next 3 or so days. During the third edition of the TJ Forum held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 2019, which is last year, we agreed to have the fourth edition of the TJ Forum in Lomé, Togo this year. We extend our gratitude to the government and people of the Republic of Togo for offering to host the forum this year. However, we could not go ahead with the TJ Forum in the traditional way of a physical meeting in Lomé, Togo, due to COVID-19, as my colleague Tefo has already said, due to COVID-19 pandemic. That has hit our continent since February 2020. So we couldn't hold the forum in Lomé because of this pandemic. That has hit the continent since February this year. This explains, Mr. Moderator, why we are meeting via video conferencing platform today. I appreciate the presence of all the participants attending this platform, despite your busy schedules. It is always worth recalling that our annual TJ Forum is a commemoration of the historic adoption of the AU Transitional Justice Policy during the 32nd Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly of Heads of State and Government on 11 February 2019 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, the subject of our deliberations over the next 3 days is both timely and pertinent. And I'm happy that our teams have zeroed on this topic that we're going to discuss. I'm very happy. It is timely because the AU declared 2020 as the year of silencing the guns, creating conducive conditions for Africa's development. African leaders rightly committed themselves to focusing primarily on prevention, management, and resolution of conflicts, amicably and constructively. And this is key to achieving the noble ideals of Agenda 2063. And as we know for a fact, that conflicts on the continent are a major cause of suffering of our people, of our citizens on the continent, because conflicts arise as a result of violation of rights, human rights, but the same conflicts then lead to further violations of rights, creating complex situations that require transitional justice for their resolution. The subject of our deliberations today is pertinent, particularly in light of the COVID-19 pandemic since February 2020. The pandemic is obviously a health crisis, there's no doubt about it. It is obviously a health crisis. It has also triggered other multiple crises: a governance crisis, a human security crisis, a peace and security crisis, and above all, a development crisis. So we have multiple dimensions of crisis that also compound our work as advocates and practitioners of transitional justice on the continent. In the midst of all this crisis occasioned by the pandemic, transitional justice efforts have not been left unscathed. They have also been adversely affected. Our transitional justice initiatives on the continent have not been left unscathed. In fact, the onset of the pandemic has effectively meant that in 2020, the AU focuses its attention simultaneously on silencing the guns, while at the same time fighting against COVID-19. This requires us to also adjust our methodologies as we implement transitional justice initiatives in all AU member states. It is behind this context that the chairperson of the African Union Commission and the United Nations Secretary General made a clarion call in March 2020 for a global ceasefire in all conflict hotspots around the world. This call is meant to ensure that belligerent parties silence the guns, give peace a chance, and ensure that adequate resources are earmarked for the fight against COVID-19. It is encouraging that the key belligerent parties in Libya, where there's a war raging, even involving a multiplicity of external warlords, external actors in that war, it is encouraging to note that belligerent parties in that war on 23rd of October signed a permanent ceasefire agreement. We just hope that that agreement will be respected by all parties so that Libya could at long last know peace, and Libyan peoples are able to also live in peace in their own country. We are also pleased with the peace agreement signed recently on 3rd October 2020 among the warring parties in the Republic of Sudan, which was signed in Juba, South Sudan. These are also encouraging news. We hope this also delivers palatable fruit to the Sudanese people in Sudan itself. We also have cause for celebration following the successful transition to constitutional order in the Republic of Mali as of 27th August 2020, reversing a military coup that happened in that country. The terrorist insurgency is still on the rise, especially in the Sahel region, the Lake Chad Basin, the Horn of Africa, the Arab Maghreb region, the northeastern Nigeria, parts of northeastern Nigeria, and northern part of Mozambique in Cabo Delgado province. These are all causes for concern as we all, mount a concerted effort to silence the guns on our continent. The more the guns keep killing our people, the more complex is our task of advancing transitional justice on the continent. The complexity of our task is compounded, of course, by the COVID-19, as it has been said by other speakers before me. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, it will be remiss of me not to shine a spotlight on the 2021 AU theme. The African leaders have declared 2021 as the year of arts, culture, and heritage. Leave us for building the Africa we want. As advocates and practitioners of transitional justice in Africa, we need to start now thinking about how to situate our TJ work, TJ interventions within this new theme for next year. One important way of doing this is to probably focus our attention in 2021 on traditional justice mechanisms and how they can be made to be more effective as part and parcel of post-conflict reconstruction and development on the continent. I do recall vividly that we had a very vibrant and robust debate.
وأرجو
Can I continue?
أننا
Could I think there's an overlapping by the Arabic interpreter?
Yes.
Director, please continue.
Thank you, thank you. I do recall vividly, moderator, that we had a very vibrant and robust debate on this subject of traditional mechanisms of TJ during the second edition of the TJ Forum in Khartoum, Sudan in 2018. We therefore need to revisit that debate and take it forward as our contribution to the theme for 2021. The year 2021 is upon us in a space of 2 months from now. So let us start thinking and acting accordingly. And moderator, as I wind up my opening remarks on behalf of the commissioner, allow me please to thank all our partners that have been with us on this road, both civil society, think tanks, media, and all of them that have actually contributed so meaningfully to our journey thus far in advancing TJ on the African continent. But allow me specifically to thank some individuals from our two partner institutions, CSVR and AUC. Let me start with CSVR to thank the four people who work with closely in CSVR, Nomfundo, Sophia, Anna, and Hugo. I hope they're on this platform. We really appreciate their contribution from CSVR side. On my side, on the African Union Commission side, let me thank the head of division, Calixte, Mr. Calixte Mbari, Salah, John, and Sion, who I'm sure they're also on this platform. With those remarks, moderator, allow me, on behalf of the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Excellency Ambassador Minata Samate Cessouma, to now happily declare this 4th edition of the TJ Forum on the theme, Silencing the Guns in the Context of COVID-19, Progress, Problems, and Prospects, officially opened. It's my pleasure to do this on behalf of our Commissioner, and I thank you very much for your kind attention.